It's High Priestess Jamila. I got a quick live for y'all. What are you talking about? So I had to make the title, especially the word bondage, kind of extreme. So one thing that I want to talk about with these false relationships that are being predicated by many different establishments. Um, this is being orchestrated and designed to cause you to throw away real love. Okay, so a lot of y'all that are coming from a place of being in a situation where you sought freedom constantly and you felt like you were not accepted. You felt like, the situation was false. You felt like you needed to be liberated. Coming out of that type of situation and jumping in to what you want, one of the things that you have to let go of is the need for freedom and liberation. Okay. And let me plug this phone in. I'm going to speak from my own personal, well, I wouldn't say that it's personal. It was more so a false business transaction, supposedly for some people, which it didn't turn out that way. But it still was an experience that I went through. So pretty much when you go from like a unhealthy, toxic, I don't want to use the word abuse because abuse is a word that you use for if you truly felt love from a person that completely took you for granted, or that person may have gotten off on, your ability to be very resilient, because that's an energy that people feed off of a lot. So, a lot of you guys that want love and you want it quickly, you want to move forward quickly, you don't want to wait because you feel like you've already wasted enough of your time and you want it fast. You do. You're like, okay, it's time. When you finally take the plunge and you tap into the reality where the real love, the true, where your true love actually exists, then you have this person come in and you love them and they love you, and the situation is perfect. It's just the energies between the two of you are amazing. But what you have lingering over your head and in your heart still is that need for liberation from that person that was extremely toxic and oppressive. Okay. And a lot of these, people, instead of being people, and it depends on the circumstances that you run into people, it depends on the circumstances, um, that you meet that person under. Um, People have their agendas. Good morning, Lenny Pretty. Good morning. So people have their agendas. Okay. And relationships and love and marriages are typically seen as more of a status type of thing. In particular, in the Black community, um, a lot of Black people look at conquering as a way of positioning themselves in a position of status. So it's not love, right? And there's a lot of people that are in certain groups, certain agendas, and you run into a situation where you feel as though, and you really literally are in bondage, but you're in bondage with a person that you don't love, where the situation has no love. So when you are in a situation, especially when it comes to a love relationship that involves sex, when you have sex with someone that does not love you, or where love does not exist, that is a curse, because you're getting the physical aspects, but the heart is not getting anything, which means that you're just pumping blood, but there's nothing there. It lacks sustenance, and it will start to destroy you from the inside out. So when you're in that situation and you come to me and you say, okay, Jamila, I would like for you to start the process in creating my spiritual servitor. I would like to kind of like shift out of the reality where love is not love, love is fake, and hate is real. And I'm ready to do that, and it's going to happen very quickly. They don't play around, and it really depends on where you're at, but that person will come in unexpected. And when that person comes in, you're still carrying the energies and the need. It's very deep, of needing liberation, because for some reason entrapment and enslavement is something that is happening a lot, um, as a part of agendas. Okay. And so you're basically being robbed of your true love that you actually want to be in bondage with. Now, I'm not, now, see, that's where this person came in and said, what is this ish? Let me explain. Bondage is not a bad thing. Bondage is basically means tantric, that you are intertwined with this person. And that's what bondage is. Bondage is a bond. Okay. So, what I realized in particular with my own situation is that the person, like with my true love, I want to be in bondage with him. I want it with him. Okay. But those energies of needing liberation were still there. And, it's all a part of the, women's liberation movement, but you're going in two different directions. You're going in the direction to where you want love and you want to be secure in that love, but then again, you want to be liberated. But the reason why you want to be liberated is those energies of liberation are still lingering around, and it is actually um, causing a lot of miscommunication, and it can really, really stop. And see, it's not just about you yourself, right? It's not just about you, but it's about the many, many different egregores and collective thoughts and consciousness of the world that you're dealing with, right? So, when I was in my 20s, I was not ready to settle down. And I had two babies back to back by my baby's father. I was not married. Marriage has always been a very scary concept for me until I met the one, which, by the way, he is an Aries and I'm a Cancer. And so, basically, there was a time when I was with my daughter's father, and he was a Cancer too. And when we would sleep in the bed with each other at night, he would keep one leg hooked and wrapped around my leg. And, I had trouble getting out of the bed to even go to the bathroom. So, and at the time when I was in my 20s, I was not ready for that situation, but, it just is what it is. But now that dynamic is something that I want. And this goes for men and women. When you are in a relationship that is not true, that is a false relationship, you are constantly desiring that freedom and that liberation. And those energies are still there. And in order for you to really fully, because it's not meant for probably 80 to 90% of you to find true love, possibly because it makes you a better slave or a harder worker. Okay. So everything that we are dealing with that is going wrong, it has been predicated upon by the industrial complex. Now, believe it or not, all of these things that exist in this world, you don't have to conform. It doesn't mean that you can't have a job. It doesn't mean that you can't have anything. It just means that you don't have to conform to that. You can go to work, work 9 to 5. Your energy's not being drained. You go home to the person that you're with, and if you're with the right person, your energy together is going to heal and rejuvenate and revitalize each other, even when you're not having sex. But while you're eating dinner together, while you're sleeping together, it's going to recharge you. So you don't have to, like, we know about all of the isms, we know about all of the craziness, what they want for us. But in reality, if they are like threatening to you in any way, to where they're like, well, if you don't conform with this, then, we want to take you out. We want to torture you. We want to harass you. Well, you know what? There's spirits that can help you with that. Okay. But, and so I say all this to say this: when you fall in real tantric love, you have to work on yourself and you have to let go completely of the need for liberation, because those energies, and that's a block, that's going to block you, okay, from that previous person. It's going to block you. It's going to jade the connection. It's going to slow the connection down. It's gonna cause some problems because those energies are still lingering, and those energies and thought forms within yourself became very powerful enough to liberate you from that person. But now you have to throw those energies away and say, okay, this person right here, I wanted freedom and liberation because this person was oppressive, this person was toxic, this person was not the person for me, although they were trying to force it. But when you get with this new, the person, not new, but the person, because that person is not new. There have been many, many, many things and situations and circumstances that have either been randomly put into place or either purposely put into place to delay you from union with that person. So that person is not new. You've known them. That's why they feel so familiar. That's why you crave to be with them all the time. And it's stronger for women because men are kind of taught to be emotionally disconnected. And I know that because my significant other is an Aries, and Aries people can be very emotionally distant. They can. I'm a Cancer. So for me, my emotions are like right there. I wear my heart. If I feel comfortable, because I felt so comfortable with him, my heart was literally sitting on the outside of my chest, basically. And he's just like, I don't know, and so that's, it's kind of one of those things, because Aries people can be some of the worst when it comes to being emotionally detached or either holding back. I mean, you would think that they would be people that would go at things really fast. They will go at sex really fast, but And if they like it, they're going to keep you. But as far as like with the commitment stuff and going further, they kind of will start to slow to a turtle's crawl. You know what I'm saying? Because they can just be emotionally detached, worse than some of the air signs that they talk about. But anyway, so anyway, the reason why I'm saying that is because those energies, and they don't need to be there. It became almost like a giant, a monster. You had to literally become a monster. You had to pull out your fangs to achieve that liberation from someone knew you didn't want to be with, but that was trying to use you for some purpose. Now that you've came into union with the person that you do want to be with, you have to literally, and I'm talking about purposefully, throw that need for liberation away because you're in the union with the person. You're no longer with that other person. I understand that the other person may be trying to stay connected, and this is something that I feel that you should do along with or either shortly behind your cord cuttings from the person that you don't want to be with. It's like, okay, I cut the cord. I'm with this person now. I'm safe. Okay, I'm safe. So now I want to throw away all of those or either transmute it. You can transmute energy. Maybe not throw it away. That's a wrong term. Transmute it now to being tangled with that person, bonded with that person. Okay. And so when we say bondage, that's a bad word to use. However, I use that word purposely to get people's attention because people are going to say, what the heck? But in reality, just for me, speaking from from my own personal experience, going from that to where I'm at now with this with my person, I want to be in bondage with that person. I want that person to want to know where I'm at all times. I want that person to want to be, to kind of stare me down and keep track of me. Seriously, like I want that from that person. I'd be willing to give that to this person, right? But it's difficult to do that because you still have those big, big, big energies of liberation that now you need to transmute. Hey, hunk of fun. Hello to Jules Daly. Hello. So I just wanted to share that, whether or not the universe, I think that when you do spell work, especially because I practice planetary alchemy. But whether or not the universe does it on purpose or randomly or you do it or you ask the universe because people that want to keep you in bondage in these false relationships, they will call upon universal energies to keep you in bondage, mainly Saturn. Okay. So once you have broken that code, once you have broken out of that and you're with that person, and it'll even form a protection around the two of you because now that bondage becomes that protection. But it's not like bondage like BDSM. Okay. BDSM has completely destroyed and perverted the role that the woman and the man, or either the divine masculine or the feminine dynamic, it's destroyed that. There's a lot of people that would disagree because usually there's a lot of trauma involved with BDSM, a lot of demeaning behavior, a lot of, I'm the man, you're the woman, and you're less than me. Okay. Now, but sometimes within that, the woman is, like the aggressor, which I don't like that either. I don't believe that that is my definition of real love. I wouldn't want something like that. Okay, I wouldn't want to be like a dominatrix, and I wouldn't want somebody I wouldn't want that. That's not something that I would choose for a lifelong partner. That's no. No. Maybe played around with it, maybe just had a little fun, but to choose someone to settle down with permanently, then no. I wouldn't want BDSM, okay? Women should respect their man, vice versa. I agree. I agree. Respect is something that goes both ways, and it is a synergy, and it just flows. It does. And so I think that that's really important because, and the energies can get really confusing too. In particular, if the person that you wanted to liberate yourself from is still pursuing the situation with you. So now you have outside influences, and those outside influences can confuse things a whole lot, to the point where it is disrupting and it's problematic and it interrupts the normal flow. Okay, it stunts the growth, it slows it. So, my suggestion would be, in particular, if you have an ex that will not just let it go, and that can be on both sides, because usually that's what you're going to run into. You're going to run into, when you meet that one, there's going to be somebody from the past that's still going to be holding on to that person. Okay. They might even have a doll in a jar at home too, just holding on. It's weird. Okay. Now, it could be that same way for you. I think that transmuting that energy, transmuting whatever energy that you can, would be useful, because if you bring in the energies of I want to be liberated, I want to be liberated, those energies are going to be surrounding you, and then guess what? The what you really want, you're not going to be attracting. Then you're going to be chasing it. Then you're going to be waiting for it, okay? And that is one of the reasons why they have these people. Sometimes I think that some of these people are literally donating their existence to science. You know what I'm saying? Because what are you doing when you're utilizing yourself to try to impede on somebody else, right? So, and those are the fake and false relationship dynamics that are being pushed in so many different ways. Okay. And I think that it's got something to do with the secret societies too. I think that it has a lot to do with it. Secret societies and groups and things of that nature does not scare me, because the powers that I deal with are infinite. So we don't care. But the point that I'm trying to make to you is, you have to do away with and try to transmute as much as possible that whole liberation thing, because now you don't want to be liberated. You want to be involved, and when you throw that away, that does put you in a place where you are healed, and then now you can surrender yourself to the person that is meant for you to be with. Okay, and you should either do that beforehand, before you meet that person, or you should do it at some point. At some point, because a lot of you women, especially, y'all are coming out of situations where his mama was a black widow, his grandma was possessed by succubuses, he got cousins and sisters that's all parasitic, and so you were being held for feeding. You were being fed on. That's the reason why you were there. That was your purpose. You were an energetic sacrifice. They were feeding on you. A lot of y'all are. You go from that to something normal. You liberate yourself. Thank God, because some of these women do not make it out alive. They don't. Okay. You get out of that situation, you're lucky enough to run into your real true love, but now you still have that energy around you. And that's something that it's important for you to let go of and to transmute. Okay, because you've been getting trained and programmed to not even believe in love. You were being trained and programmed to accept what is abuse is love or toxicity is love, because the toxicity was there to shock you, to get your endorphins going so that you could be fed on. Okay. That is one of the um ways that they feed. That's one of the main things that they do. When they are, starting a drama with you, things of that nature, you know what I'm saying? Like, because you can tell that it's one of those false situations, because this person is constant constant drama, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? So now you have to literally retrain yourself. And it's not saying that you have to train yourself for a man, because I'm suggesting that men do this as well. You and that's how you truly move on from the past. You know what I'm saying? That's how you truly move on, because otherwise, if you stay in that energy, you're just going to be torturing yourself, and you're still going to be under the control of the previous situation. Okay? So, wanting to bond with somebody, and here's what I want to tell y'all. I hate to break this to y'all, but that is what relationships are about. But it's originally, the original plan was supposed to be of love, not hate, not control, not just being domineer, or either some kind of perversion. Okay. Or somebody just being sadistic. The original thing, which is where people feel the safest, they're the more secure, they're healthier. The dynamic is of bondage. You see what I'm saying? If that makes sense to y'all. Okay. Um, this is not about gender roles. This is not about that. What it is about is, it is about letting go of the past and surrendering to your future. Okay. And so a lot of people, in order for the relationship to last or to be happy, that bond or bondage creates this vortex, this protection, this bubble around you and that person. And I know it sounds like a crazy concept, but you're going to need to do that in today's world, but just in a healthier way. Okay? Because there are a lot of people that do not want, there are some people that are just sickened by real love. Like, for example, they have certain rules and laws in certain states where you can't be lovey-dovey in public. Because if you're in a situation with your significant other where y'all just like to all the time, or y'all just, or just into each other, people are sickened by that. People hate that. They hate that, and they look at it as obscene. There are a lot of people that if they see a couple that shows too much love for each other, which is why, there's a lot of, y'all see the couples on here on YouTube. They don't really show a lot of affection. It's more so of an entertainment type of thing. But there are a lot of people that are sickened by a person expressing how much they love the person that they're with. It just makes them sick. They just don't like it. So it's hard because there's so many different things that are going on in the world. And people want, everybody wants everybody to conform to what they want and what they accept. You know what I mean? That's just like you can be together one day, go out, and you're like showing each other too much, which I thought that if you went out to eat dinner or you went out for a drink, you're supposed to be, just focused on the person that you're there with. People want you to show them attention, which it's like if you're on some kind of outing or date, you're supposed to be paying attention to the person. Everybody wants a piece of everybody. And it's really weird. It really is. And for me, it's been very traumatizing. It has been. That's just like when it comes to intimacy. I would rather keep that between me and him. You see what I'm saying? Because like I said, everybody's perverted, everybody's possessed, everybody's weird. And it's kind of like for me, I'd rather keep people wondering what we do in the bedroom other than just telling everybody. So it's kind of weird because there's a lot of people that, they and that's one of the reasons why you guys will hear me on here talking about how much I cannot stand the thought of threesomes. Mm-mm. That's like literally, that's not that's a way of causing a lot of problems for yourself. You may not destroy the love dynamic because depending on how close you are with that person, it wouldn't, but it just, I just, for me personally, I'm sick of it. Okay. I'm sick of the whole dynamic of having threesomes and all of that stuff. It doesn't cheer me or jeer me. Okay. It just doesn't. And nobody has to have a reason why. Okay. It's extremely perverted to me. It is. And it makes no sense because why would a woman want to share her intimacy with another woman? Okay. That makes absolutely no sense to me. And it never will. Okay. That's, so, but it just seems like that to me. It seems like people want to know too much about what it is that you're doing, what you're thinking. In today's world, everybody's always posting every little thing to social media. And it's because I'm gonna tell y'all why people have a need, to share and why people want you to share. I think that it's because a lot of people are disconnected from source. And I know that for a fact because people are being blocked from source on purpose. Okay. So that is starving your spirit and your soul to be blocked from source. Which what is source? Source is everything in nature, including the universe. Okay, everything that is in the inner earth and beyond, and everything on the earth, air, fire, water, spirit, as well as everything that is above in the universe. So many people are being purposely blocked from source because that is source. And we don't know why that, well, we do know why they're doing it, but a lot of people don't realize that you don't have to accept that as an inevitability. Like, I was running into a couple of stories about some stuff that I looked up, and conspiracies and stuff, and there was these stories about, oh, this guy revealed this and he came up missing. You know what I'm saying? But well, you know what? You have every right to live in the reality that you want to live in. Nobody can tell you how to live. Nobody can do that. And if you understand that, and you have to understand that if that is happening to you, it's unfortunate. You've been chosen for that, but you're being chosen for bad reasons. It drives me crazy when I see those videos about the chosen ones, the chosen ones. You're chosen by those negative energies. That's who's choosing you. Okay, I personally feel like God put us on this earth to be fruitful and multiply and to be joyful and to be abundant because the earth is very abundant, right? And so, these days everybody is obsessed with containment. Everybody is obsessed with wanting to see like the majority doing what they see is right. You, even if it's the president, you still don't have to necessarily conform to that, especially when it comes to sexual and marital rights. And I think that people really need to be careful with that. People really need to be careful with that. People need to wake up. People need to pay attention because y'all have allowed them to control your heart for far too long. And we have learned that all the way from 2020 to 2025, and we're still learning that. Okay. And it just is what it is. I personally have no fear, but that is because I am a next level high priestess of Hecate. And so I dwell within the deep. I roll in the deep. Okay, let's put it like that. So I'm just not playing those games with nobody. My life is my life, and you will not. You know what I'm saying? You will not. And it's just been a lot that's been going on to where it seems like there's this universal call for slavery for different purposes. And it's weird to me. And I think that more people need to get in the consciousness of actually help with that. What's going to actually help you with that? Okay. What's going to actually make a difference? Is conforming to what other people think and society going to do that? No, because most of society is under mind control and hypnotized by fear. Most of society. Of course, a lot of our governing bodies are very, very perverted because they are under control by incubuses and succubuses. Those are the main entities running the world is incubuses and succubuses. That's a fact. Does that mean that they have to run you? No, they don't. They don't. As a child of God and a child of the earth, you have every right to say, no, not going to do that. Nope, you're not going to do that because, like, here lately, there's been a push to really pretty much control your sexual nature, which that's why so many people are not sexually satisfied. That's why so many people are suffering because something else wants control. And incubuses and succubuses, to me, they're not human. They are some of the most inhumane of, as far as the hierarchy of demons. Okay. Because what they do is they take away and they numb and they dull the sexual nature. After a while, if you realize it, incubuses and succubuses, they pull on your energy so much to the point where you become numb, and it's really bad, right? So then when you make love to your partner, you're numb to it. It's kind of like, and they're actually forcing that to happen because and after a while, after they've completely gutted you, because I've actually been in a situation where I felt like I was completely gutted by those entities. Okay, I had to restore myself, did it very quickly, but well, I don't want to say very quickly because there was other things that I had to do for healing. I had to heal my womb, I had to heal my cervix, I had to heal my vaginal walls, I had to heal everything. It was awful. It was awful. Okay, what they were doing, which is perverting everything. So, and so many people have, like, if you're abstaining from sex because you haven't met the right one, that's understandable. But when you literally have like a feeling to where you just want to be alone, and you, and sex is like, gross to you or something. And then for men, it's kind of like, well, I'd rather just watch this porn and rub one out and go to sleep. All of that, the porn, when you see porn, it is laced with incubus and succubus energy to the point, and you're not getting anything from that. Because when you have normal sex, you are actually pulling from very high frequencies and low that are extremely important. You're pulling from everything around you, not people, but just the energies around you and the energy with that you're pulling from each other. These days, people are trying to act like they are in a porn movie, and that's not real sex. It's not. Porn has been extremely harmful to human beings for quite some time. And I know that they had that movie called People versus Larry Flint. Trust me, I've seen that movie a couple of times. And that was like what, 10, probably about close to 15 years ago, 20 years ago when that movie came out. And at the time, it was like, yeah, I was like, this makes sense. But then when I quit watching porn, I realized the harm in that, because they were comparing sex to like extreme, which was war, right? Which does make sense when you think about Aphrodite, goddess of love and war. But, Larry Flint was like, well, porn is not harmful because at least we're not looking at people blowing each other up or cutting each other up. However, it is harmful. It is. Okay. So I would debate that point. And part of the reason why is because at the ripe old age of 48, I feel like I had sex for the first time with a person that it was meant for me to have sex with. You see what I'm saying? And it was so much clarity within that. Of course, at the time I was going through a lot of cleanses and stuff, getting out a lot of those incubus and succubus frequencies out of me, because they're not good, and they're not good. They're not. I mean, it's, I've actually broken it down on my other channel, the Witch's Broom channel. Okay, so I've kind of rambled on a little bit. How do I finish this one out? I think that in order for you to, when the universe is going to bring you to that person, they're already clearing you of that outer shell, that aura that is, which is in your aura of liberation, so that you can even attract that person. So that's something to think about. Okay. And I know for a fact that it will also help you guys with a lot of your relationships, because there's a lot of you guys that manifested that person. Okay. A lot of you guys that, whether or not you did it through ritual, or the way that I did it, which was ritual. Um, but, or, if you just said, hey, universe, God, I'm ready for that person to come in. I'm ready. Right. And there was already a dynamic of pulling back that outer shell of yourself, so that that person would even, so that you would even talk to each other. You know what I'm saying? Because otherwise, your cues and your energy is vibrating in, get away from me, I don't want to talk to nobody. You know what I'm saying? Don't talk to me. Okay. If that makes sense. Okay. All right, that's pretty much it. I'll try to leave comments open so that y'all can comment on this, and then we can talk about this later, because this is not the only time I want to talk about this. I just felt like I should come on here and talk about this right now at this moment, because I think that it's okay to want to be bound or in a tie with the right person. You want to be tied with that person. You want to be, with that person. You know what I mean? As opposed to what you had done before, which was, something where you literally had to run for your life. You know what I'm saying? So, anyway, that'll be good for a lot of you twin flames too, because I do believe in twin flames. I totally believe in twin flames. Totally. Okay? I do. And I think that a lot of you guys that run into your twin flame, which, yeah, a lot of you guys that run into your twin flame and y'all start chasing and running behind each other, that is because somebody is still carrying those frequencies of, I want to be liberated, get away from me, right? And so then instead of the tantric connection happening naturally, because you're still holding on to that deep down, and you can feel it, when those layers of that onion is being peeled back, you can actually feel it. I've worked with many, many clients, and a lot of them, especially when I'm healing them or cleansing them of something, they'll say, okay, well, I experienced this, but then they'll say, you know what, I experienced something very deep. Like I felt like I released something from very deep inside myself, and I felt different. I felt good. It was something that was, I felt like a shift inside of myself. You know what I mean? So, hello, Michelle. How are you? All right, guys, that's pretty much it. I hope y'all enjoyed this discussion. Make sure that y'all hit that thumbs up and subscribe, and also subscribe to the Witch's Broom channel. Okay? All right. Have a good week. Bye.